Welcome to Project Team 1's presentation on Sears, A Need for Change Again. This presentation will be provided by all team members, myself, Douglas Thurston, Leland Williams, Ashley Carranza, and Carmen Restrepo Nagaro. We hope you enjoy the presentation. Our team will do this by providing the following: introduction, which includes background, situation, organization, industry, and context for change. We will then go into the analysis, which will be the description of change, the culture, and diagnosis of change, followed by theories, which will be chosen intervention, description of change, communication of change, and then the evaluation as far as what went well and what didn't, the quality of the outcome, processes, and work of change agents, and areas needing improvement. And then we will, in summary, close it up with conclusion, which will outline our strategies for improvement or enhancement. So the background of Sears. Sears was originally founded by Richard W. Sears in 1886. It is one of the first to publish a mail order catalog in 1888. It's currently the fourth largest retailer with annual revenue of $40 billion as of 2016. Sears also now includes online catalog and a chain of retail stores in the U.S. and Canada. Its stores include apparel, automotive, outdoor, health, beauty, jewelry, optical, and photography, and even tourism. There are 870 full-line department stores and 1,300 freestanding specialty stores. Sears offers quality brands such as Kenmore Appliances and Craftsman Tools, which are their staples, and online retail sales to keep up with Amazon and other e-commerce retailers. So the situation at Sears is that Eddie Lampert became Chief Executive Officer of Sears in 2013. Eddie attends shareholder meetings via video teleconferencing rather than in person. And so there is no way of him knowing the dire state of his many stores, and he does not seem to care, according to research. Many believe that Lampert is planning a radical change from retail to online stores like Amazon. He has set up his holdings in a way that he profits regardless of what happens to Sears. So the current situation is bleak based on many store closings and poor product quality that's starting to arise. So failure is a near certainty, and analysts expect Sears to file for bankruptcy within 2 years. So now let's talk about organization. As with any company, organization gets into the heart of the problem at Sears. The rise of Amazon and other online shopping is definitely difficult, but there still is a need for retail stores. Failing organizations usually are attributed to leadership, culture, and business models, as is the case with Sears. And CEO Eddie Lampert is moving money from one pocket to the other. And how he moves that money, you could see by the diagram to the left, and basically how Lampert wins even when Sears loses. And this money shifting tactic kind of plays into what everybody's fear is that he's moving in a different direction soon. As for the industry at Sears, it is currently headquartered in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, in the U.S. Like I said before, there are 870 stores and 1,300 specialty stores. These specialty stores are generally located in shopping malls. Sears Grand, for example, is a retrofitted remodel of an existing Kmart Supercenter store. A&E Factory Service provides on-site repair services for Sears. Sears Home Services specializes in providing those same repairs but at your home. And Sears also has other subsidiaries such as Sears Optical, Sears Parts Direct, Sears Portrait Studios, and as I mentioned before, Sears Vacations for tourism. So now for the most important part, which is the context for change. So after researching the organization, we conducted interviews with a Sears manager, and the following questions and responses from that interview are in the paper. But the questions that we asked during the interview process were: 1, do employees know the organization's vision and mission? 2, do employees agree with and support the organization's strategy? 3, What is your opinion about the culture of Sears at your store? 4, is the leadership structure and style effective where you work? And then the last question was, are there mechanisms that help or hinder your job accomplishment? So change for this company must be conducted again in our research and has to include changing leadership, culture, the structure of the organization, and strategy.
We are going to apply Lewin's four-field analysis change management tool. It is possible through this method to identify challenges by helping to characterize the nature of the change, accepting the key role that leadership, goals, tasks, structure, purpose, values, and culture will help in creating and implementing a successful strategy. For more than a century, Sears was considered a U.S. iconic retail brand. This firm was consistently considered one of the most trusted companies in the country. Right now, the company's future is in doubt. Sears needs to reevaluate the factors that interact in its culture and understand the need to change its business model according to the trends. Management feels the need for change, but uncertainty and loss of trust generate resistance. This could be balanced with a new and effective leadership approach that will inspire change of attitude among employees. Developing a new culture approach with new core values would also help to develop commitment, hope, and trust, neutralizing fear as well as encouraging accountability and motivation. Developing an effective strategy will give direction through clear goals. Culture in an organization involves interaction of different factors which are reflected in their basic assumptions, exposed values, and observable artifacts. Basic assumptions are commonly unconscious, which are represented in ideas, beliefs, attitudes, and actions. Exposed values are transmitted by the company's leadership, and observable artifacts are represented in style, technology, products, physical locations, and myths. Culture has a powerful effect on decision, performance, and long-term effectiveness in any organization. So, it is important to analyze how managerial staff may promote the set of values of the firm and the way they assume it defines the organizational culture, because sometimes the reality is different and employees perceive those values in a different way, affecting the organization performance, creating inharmonious dynamic between culture and company goals. It is important to do a cultural analysis to facilitate the planning and implementation of organizational change. The process would include a moral assessment analysis of decision making within the company, create mechanics to identify dysfunctional processes, as well as identify organizational challenges and strengths. For Sears, its culture is based on customer service and teamwork. They want to engage to incentivize associates to embrace change and technology. They also implemented a performance-based culture. Reward programs were linked to the company's plan trying to retain its management core and to influence organizational behavior among employees to improve their productivity, but it didn't work. When the company started to create several divisions in its core of business, they also need to put a lot of managers. They become unable to promptly respond and adapt to customer needs. Just like a former executive explained in an interview, he said that the environment at Sears turned into a revolution. The model created so much conflicts. Everyone in the company wants to compete, to win, and without any sense of collaboration. The interaction of internal and external environment affects a company's performance. Sears failed by applying different management approaches and commercial strategies because they didn't address some external factors. Some of these external factors are technology and competition, in which companies such as Walmart, TJ Maxx, and JCPenney gain market space, displacing the firm. They also were mistaken in approaching internal factors such as culture. They didn't evolve at the same pace of speed that the external environment required. Sears needs to change its organizational culture. In a market environment where customer culture and technology are constantly changing, to survive, any company management and its organizational culture needs to be flexible to promptly adapt and change its strategies according to the velocity of change in the external environment. Suppliers and employees believe in their minds that Sears would remain forever, thinking that everything the company implemented in the past would work in the present and will work in the future. Some of the reasons for which many companies fail in their efforts to improve organizational effectiveness, like Sears, is that despite the tools and techniques applied to implement a change, they fail because the fundamental culture of the organization remains the same. Many strategies and tactical movements took place at Sears, but nothing worked. Vision and goals lost direction.
Theories. Sears is a cold organization. Rules, regulations, systems, structures, and procedures drive direction, control, and coordination to get results. There is little or no intrinsic willingness to outperform. Cold motivation. Sears has a cold motivation for change as they are nearing bankruptcy and are losing market share. Transformation communication intervention, aimed at figuring out the necessary change that must take place. This would involve managers to create the frameworks, and members of the organization can contribute with their ideas on what can be done to meet those specific frameworks. The purpose is for them to get a better picture on what must be done to meet the intended change and have everyone involved, not just management. Change. Change can begin by having leadership develop a clear vision and sharing it with members and guiding them towards that vision, as it is the bridge between current and future states, providing a sense of direction and aligning efforts. Focusing on employee resocialization by engaging employees and really seeing them as meaningful contributors, not just doers, in the principal challenges facing the enterprise. This would encourage them to be more involved, more informed, and develop a sense of urgency. Communication. Communicating the vision to everyone involved is crucial if everyone is to understand and commit to the change. Leadership should continue to communicate and guide the change when resistance should arise to continue the change process. Without this sort of consistency, this could actually hinder the change.
So what we see in Sears and actually other department stores for that matter is that its value is intertwined within its real estate. What we mean about this is that a lot of Sears' value comes from its freestanding department stores, such as its mall location stores, and the facilities it uses for distribution and warehousing. However, in Sears' circumstance, they're having to liquidate or sell this real estate for an income. And property liquidation often occurs during bankruptcy. However, Sears' property liquidation wasn't to support Sears during these financial tough times, moreover, to benefit its shareholders. And interestingly enough, Eddie Lampert created a real estate investment trust called Seritage to, quote, generate financial flexibility while creating shareholder value, unquote. And so what that means is that Seritage buys property from Sears, but awkwardly enough, leases it right back to them at a specific rate. We can see in the figure on the right, how this real estate investment trust works. kind of how they sell. If like a Sears location closes, they'll lease that often back to another Sears, or potentially, and most often, a retailer that can afford higher rents. And we'll kind of talk about this later, but is this unethical business practices? And to give an example of how Seritage works, so I don't, if for any of you who aren't on island or haven't spent a lot of time on Oahu, there actually used to be a Sears at Ala Moana Shopping Center, what they call the Eva Wing, or the Pi'ikoi side of Ala Moana. So we can see, in the upper left photo, there used to be a Sears there. It was 2 stories. It had appliances, clothes, and anything that you'd normally find at like a Sears type department store. However, I think it was in 2013, 2014, or maybe 2012 and 2013, they tore it down. And if any of you have been to Ala Moana now, you'll notice that there is a Nordstrom's there. Now, Nordstrom's used to be where the new Target is at Ala Moana. And again, if you've been over on that side of the mall, you'll notice that there's a smaller Sears appliance store, and I think maybe an automobile appliance store right next to that Target. And so we can see in this instance how they were able to put a Nordstrom's where the old larger Sears was, because Nordstrom can afford the higher rent at Ala Moana, which is really, really high. However, it seems they put a smaller Sears store at the bottom, possibly due to their ability to pay smaller rents. However, I'm not sure how long that will last. There is also another Sears distribution store, although driving by it looks kind of run down and abandoned, but that's out near Pearl City, Highlands area. And this is just an example of how Seritage works, and even how some of the Sears stores are closing. Although Lampert insists that Sears is doing fine, several studies show that there are growing concerns going into the next business year, and this is primarily due to Sears' inability to compete with other retailers and online retailers such as Amazon specifically, that are able to outcompete Sears in selling home appliances and other products like that. And since 2011, 90% of Sears' stock has lost its value. Sears Holding Company is also losing stock as well, and has lost 5% of its 2007 value. And also, revenue of Sears is less than 50% of what it was in 2007. And all these things combined, it's not sure if Sears is able to save itself by the management practices that Lampert is applying. It doesn't look like a good outlook. And we see in this graph here how dramatically Sears and Sears Holdings price by percent is dropping rapidly and gradually. And this graph goes up to 2016. However, in 2017 and in 2018, it is expected to be lower. And this graph shows us the number of Sears stores shutting down. We can see the y-axis is the number of stores in thousands, and the x-axis is over years. And this isn't going down by thousands, this is only going down by hundreds. And we can see in 2016, there were a little over 1,500 stores. And in 2017, there's less. And 2018, there'll be even less if Sears is still a company during that time. As I mentioned earlier, Lampert may be applying arguably unethical business practices when it comes to the future outlook of Sears. Seritage, the real estate investment trust, has been separated into another company along with 254 properties worth $2.5 billion. And as you're probably wondering, the chairman of Seritage is Eddie Lampert, also the CEO and chairman of both Sears Holding Company and Sears. Also, Lampert owns 44% of Seritage through direct purchases of stock and indirectly through coincidentally named Edward S. Lambert Investments. The Seritage purchase was funded in part by selling interest in Seritage to Sears shareholders, including Lampert himself and other large stake owners and investors. Um, and these real estate deals were essentially a transfer of capital from Sears to Sears Holding Company shareholders in order to hedge bets against the failure of Sears' operation. Very questionable. And like as we discussed, we also see that the most valuable properties were also higher performing stores. However, to cover bases, Seritage pulled leases from only a few high-performing stores so as to not get rid of an asset that was bringing in more of an income. But at the same time, this was all at the risk, instead of mitigating the issues happening with some of the smaller and supposedly underperforming stores, they just get rid of those. And out of all this, we see that Lampert runs Sears and Sears Holding as short-term investments, and thus means that planning for long-term change is essentially impossible.
In summary, a recommended strategy for improvement or enhancement of Sears would be to hire a reputable organizational change company that understands how to plan and execute a proper change plan and who can effectively and accurately diagnose all the issues at Sears, beginning with the culture and the leadership. We can then use this diagnosis to conduct a 9-step scenario planning process to plan a solid strategy for change, then execute this plan and strategy using Cotter's 8 phases of change. Because the current Sears CEO seemingly has his own self-interest ahead of the company, I would recommend assessing him deeper and, if necessary, host a stakeholder meeting and vote to terminate him as CEO and replace him with someone who cares about the shareholders, cares about the brand, and most importantly, cares about the people that make it all possible, both the customers and the employees.